And we're now live on Facebook.
Yes, we are.
So, everyone who's got your cameras on, give us a wave.
Hi.
Lovely, everybody's looking cheerful. Good to see you, Moz. Good evening, Lisa.
Unmute my thingy. Hey!
Yay! Hello,
I was hiding. I was hoping no one would notice. Evenings where
You're trying to sneak in at the back.
I'm sneaking in at the back. Yeah.
Good evening, Louise. Good evening, Katie.
And Stacey is coming as well.
Great. It's lovely to see so many people joining us.
Dog is coming back.
I love that doorbell sound that it makes. It sounds like a doorbell. It's really good to see you all. So we've got wet weather in London. What's the weather like in Leicester?
It's hot.
Cloudy.
Oh, is it?
It's quite warm. Yeah, humid today.
It's cloudy though.
Okay.
Cloudy. No rain.
Yeah.
Let's have a little go with who we've already got with us to see how many people know how to use their hands up button. If you know how to use your hands up button, which is when you click on participants, you can see a list of all the participants, and next to your name, there's a little hands up sign. So if you can see that, just put your hands up for me, just as a test. Okay, I've got a few. Oh yeah, I can see a few hands up. That's great. Oh, they will come in the top. That's useful to see. Brilliant. Okay. Fantastic. Turn that down, or even turn it on. Lovely. Great.
Hey, seems to have problems. Stacey's there.
Yeah, Stacey's there.
Yeah, Stacey, she still shows
No,
up
no,
on
Stacey came in, I think, on a different
device
because she's here.
Well, you're all a sight for sore eyes. It's lovely to see you all. I think perhaps we'll get started with the introduction. I'm sure we'll have more people joining as we go along. It's really lovely to see you all here this evening, ladies. So I'll start with introducing myself and JoyRiders. I'm Carolyn. I'm the founding director of JoyRiders, and for those of you who don't know us, we're based in East London in Waltham Forest, and JoyRiders started about 3.5 years ago when I got into cycling as a way of recovering my health after breast cancer and as a means of getting my kids to and from school. And we were very lucky, and still are very lucky, that in the borough where we live, we had a big mini Holland cycling infrastructure investment. I noticed that not many other women were cycling, especially on the school run. And when I started asking around, especially a lot of mums and women from my own network, a lot of women from different backgrounds, it transpired actually that most of them, the vast majority, really wanted to cycle, but they'd never been given the opportunity to do so, or it just never occurred to them that it was something that they could do. So I started organising with the council to borrow bikes, to do led rides and getting women out exploring green spaces, particularly targeting kind of stay-at-home mums to begin with from my own network. And then 3.5 years later, we're now a community interest company. And Viv and Maryam here are my co-directors. Do you want to both say hi? Katie. Stacey is coming as well. Stay-at-home mums to begin with from my own network. And then I'm getting a bit of feedback. We're now a community interest company. Ah, can anyone else hear that?
Yeah, I think that's me.
Want to both say hi?
That's
It sounds like a recording playing. Ah, it
Should be
stopped.
right now.
Okay, great. So yeah, so led rides is what we normally do pre-COVID-19. So we've been running led rides for women. We were doing 2 rides a week for beginners and more of an intermediate level. A number of us are also cycling instructors, and we teach women to ride and take them on a journey, you know, all the way through to becoming confident cyclists. And we also do family rides on a monthly basis. We do contracts for other organisations, and before the lockdown we were about to start doing rides for for sort of working women, for a different audience, twilight rides and commuter rides, but obviously all that is now on hold because of the virus. So we've now quickly adapted our services thanks to our funders, and are doing obviously an online offer. And really I wanted to find a way of bringing women together despite being in lockdown, so that we can still enjoy being together and feel, you know, inspired by each other. So I'm really excited this evening that we've got 4 women who I think are really inspiring, who I think probably consider themselves to be quite ordinary women. But that's what I think is really exciting, that actually all of us as women have got the capacity to do extraordinary things, and they're all great examples of that. Yeah, before we start, I was just going to say, do feel free to leave any comments in the chat and we'll address those afterwards. And as another little bit of housekeeping, Maryam or Viv will put everybody on mute except for the person who's speaking, just to avoid any background noise. And let's start with just checking out the hands up again. If you can find your hands up button, click on your hands up button and let us know if you would like to challenge yourself in cycling by doing something you haven't done before. How many can we see? I can see a thumb up from Yasmin. You can do thumbs up if you can't find hands up. Thumb up is under reactions and hands up is next to your name under the participants list.
We've got a lot of thumbs up.
Great, that's good to see. Fantastic. Okay, great. This is so exciting. I hope that we're going to have a nice uplifting evening, especially for Maryam and Yasmin, who are joining us this evening from Leicester, because obviously Leicester's gone back into lockdown because of a spike in cases. So we're going to start with Maryam Amatullah. I'm really, really excited to have Maryam here because she was one of the people that inspired JoyRiders when we had the first meeting around my kitchen table. Those a few years ago, we actually watched a video of one of Maryam's breeze rides, and for the Muslim women in the group, that was really exciting because they'd never seen a woman, you know, a Muslim woman riding a bike on the internet before. So it was really lovely that we got to meet last year on the Women's Ride to Parliament when Cycling UK launched their 100 Women in Cycling event. So Maryam is one of the 100 Women in Cycling from last year. She's a breeze champion. She's a cycling instructor. She was formerly a schools officer for Sustrans, and she's done a huge amount to support women in cycling and really has blazed a trail for Black and ethnic minority women in cycling. So without further ado, welcome Maryam.
Hi everyone.
It's really lovely to have you with us. How are things in Leicester now that you've gone back into lockdown again?
It's quite we've just got to get on with it. We felt a bit down to begin with, especially like Yasmin was saying, we're a bit embarrassed being from Leicester because of what's happening. But and it's quite sad that we've gone back having to go into lockdown. So we've kind of gone back to what's happening in April. But
yeah, you are now where we all were in April.
Yeah. So we've just there's nothing we can do. Just get on with it.
And how about cycling? Have you been able to get out on your bike much during the lockdown?
I've been riding to work. Me and Yasmin have been on a social distance ride, but you know, because of lockdown and stuff, we've not been able to go on group rides, and you kind of lose your mojo a bit as well. It's quite, you know, it's a downer time for everyone. But like when you go on Facebook, you see inspiring stories, and like now we're on here. And we know that all these women are interested. That's uplifting as well. So it's things like that keep us going. I think having the supportive network around you is really important. Yeah,
definitely. I think a lot of women can relate to what you're saying about the lack of motivation, actually, because other people have been saying the same thing.
And eating, like I'm just eating and I'm not burning it off, so I'm just gaining. And it goes on my backside more than anywhere.
Well, you know, I think a lot of women will be really happy to know that you know, because they're in the same boat. We're all a bit too close to the fridge when we're working at home, aren't we? Can you tell us, Maryam, about how you first got into cycling to begin with?
Right, I learned to ride a two-wheeled bike when I was 5. Cycling has always been something that I've loved as a kid. So I had a little tricycle when I was 3. and then learnt to ride when I was 5. And I continued to ride just with my brothers out and about. And then I stopped in my teens. Now, I grew up in London. So in my teens, well, when I was 15, I did come off my bike and I stopped riding on the road as a result. But there was the Eastway cycling circuit. So I don't know if you've heard of that. I think that's where the Velo Park is now.
Okay.
So it was part of where the stadium is now. So that was a closed road circuit that I used to go to in my teens with some friends. But as you do, past 17, you know, your friends stop doing that kind of stuff. Everybody moves on, you start doing your own thing. So cycling wasn't there anymore. But when I had my children, you know, they had bikes, I taught them how to ride. And then the most we'd do is like, they'd get around the park, I'd just jump on their bike if I could, you know, whatever chance I had, because I didn't have my own bike. And then if we went on a family holiday, we'd just hire a bike and then that was it. Nothing more than that. But I got back into cycling in, I think it was 2010. And the reason for me getting back into it was because, I mean, I liked going to the gym, I was very sporty, but I became unwell. So I couldn't do any high impact exercises anymore. And my youngest was on the PlayStation all the time. So I was like, right, that's it. We're going to get a bike and we're going to go out. Well, she already had a bike. So I got myself one and it all started from there. And when I started cycling around here, I didn't see anybody like me. Forget having the hijab, you just didn't see hardly any women, nobody at all. And then I was getting stared at. So, and I'm quite a shy person. So I'd come back in tears like, they were looking at me.
And did that put you off? Did you ever feel like giving up if you were getting people staring at you every time you went out just riding your bike?
It was putting me off, but my husband was really encouraging and said, just, you know, look at some groups and see what you can get involved in. So I started going on the local, at the time, Skyride local groups. And then, I mean,
was that the British cycling rides?
That was British cycling. And there were mixed rides. People, it wasn't really friendly or anything like that. I mean, they were nice, but not people that you could, you know, you just felt a bit out of the way kind of thing. You just felt you couldn't, it was just weird. I liked it, but it was it. You just go for a ride and that was it. You just go home. So the social aspect of it just wasn't there. But that's a really long story, so I'm just going to cut it short. And that was that. So I started cycling and I continued. I became a cycling instructor, and that was mainly because I wanted to encourage and help more women from BAME communities to get on a bike and ride, because I just didn't want to be the only one standing there. So I wanted to, and I like helping people. I love riding, and I wanted others to do it as well. And when I first started out, I thought maybe, you know, I didn't know other women wanted to cycle the way, you know, but when I started doing it, so many women started coming forward that they wanted to learn to ride, they wanted to do what I was doing. Yeah, so it started from 2010 and it hasn't stopped.
Fantastic. And so you were able to recruit a lot of people into cycling yourself once you became an instructor. And sorry, just give me 1 minute. My laptop's just become unplugged. Didn't want my battery to suddenly disappear for my laptop to crash. So Maryam, how did you manage to progress to the point where you were doing much longer rides? You know, how much longer did that, if you started riding in 2010, when did you do your first sort of longest ride?
Well, when I first started, it was like just 3 to 5 miles, but I progressed pretty quickly onto like doing 20 miles, and that was at the weekend. But I wasn't, and it's only when I became a cycling instructor, knowing where to ride, well, I had the training, knowing where to ride on the road, that made a difference, and that took my cycling a lot further. So anybody was, you know, obviously becoming a when people do come and learn to ride or they want to improve their skills, one thing is that when you get to learn to ride on the road, it's a whole different experience, because then you know where to place yourself, and it just makes your cycling a lot, once you know where to ride, it just makes it easier for you, as a, you know, and makes your riding more interesting and enjoyable.
And is that because you knew more, so you say about pacing yourself and about where to ride?
Yeah, and also it was also, I mean, as well as doing, when I trained up, I think if it was a year later, the Breeze launched its the Breeze Network, the initiative Get More Women Cycling. So I was one of the first Breeze champions trained as well. And that made a difference as well, because then again, I was connecting with other women who wanted to do the same thing, really routes. And then cycling just went on to a different level completely. And I progressed slowly. Obviously, I had to help. So part of my health problem was I have an underactive thyroid. And occasionally, I mean, I've not been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but I do get like muscle pain. So I had to, that's why I took cycling up. So hills, I hated hills, but you know, in Leicester, anyway, you're going to come across hills. And I loathed hills. And there were times when I just like, I can't do this. And I'll just get off and push up. But the more you do them, the better you get at them. But I always rode at my own pace. I mean, obviously you can push yourself and you know your limit. You know your limits. So I'd push myself, but then I'd always go at my own pace. And I think that's really important, is to listen to yourself and do what makes you feel happy. Push yourself a bit, because because that'll help you to progress and get stronger and become a stronger rider and better. But it's just that's what I found. It's and that's helped me to progress onto longer rides. So over the years I've done I did my first I rode in Somerset 2015, and 2016 I did the Coast to Coast challenge. And as I said, I hate hills, and I was really worried about doing that. When
you say coast to coast, is that Land's End to John O'Groats?
No, so that was from the west of England to the east of England. So starting at Whitehaven over to Newcastle upon Tyne. So that takes you through the Lake District. And if you've been to the Lake District, you'll know what I mean about the hills. Wow. I mean, they're really steep. So, and I was so worried about the hills, but because I was already riding my bike and commuting and carrying lots of equipment on my bike, my loaded panniers, I thought, okay, it won't be too bad. So yeah, that was something. And
was it manageable with your health issues, with the thyroid and the fibromyalgia?
Yeah, because by that time my thyroid was under control, and we didn't do like some people do coast to coast in a day. We did it over 4 to 5 days, but just all that, it was, some of the hills are really steep, so there's no way I could get up, because then your panniers are dragging you back and your front wheel would tip up, so it's like getting off and pushing up. Then you're not used to walking, because I'm not a walker, and then your legs are hurting. But it was grueling, but it was the best challenge that I've ever done, because I've got fantastic memories of it.
And what are the best memories? Because I mean, that sounds quite painful, trying to get up all of those hills. What was it that you really enjoyed about it?
The scenery. I mean, I love the Lake District, so we go regularly there for holidays. So I've always been in a car, and we've done some walking, but never been on a bike. So that at that time, going on a bike was extraordinary, because it felt more of an adventure. And it was my first adventure, because we had all our essentials in our panniers. We didn't go by car, we went by train. So it was a proper, it's the first time I did that. It was carrying everything, in your bag, and then wait, at the time I didn't know what to take. Should I take my hoodie, slippers? But you want to go as light as possible. But yeah, it was grueling.
Did you take your hoodie and your slippers?
No, I didn't, because my friend said, no, you're not allowed to take that. But there was a group of us that went, and I think it was the scenery. I love the Lake District, and also I can look back and laugh at some of my grumpy moments. I do look back and laugh. It's even today I was laughing at, we did like the Cornish Way a couple of years ago, like Yasmin came along as well for that. And again, it was just rolling hills. And today I was having a good laugh about that, because we couldn't even enjoy freewheeling going down, because we knew a hill was coming on the other side, so we're really grumpy. But looking back, you can laugh at those things. But I think having done those, taking your cycle, riding further makes you a stronger cyclist as well. And I think for me, it's the confidence aspect, knowing that I can do it, I can achieve it. And because I've always doubted myself and my abilities. And I think doing something extraordinary as that has made me believe in myself as an individual and a person. And it really, it's just something really personal.
I can really relate to that, and I think a lot of women probably can actually. That you know, having that fear and doubting yourself, and it gives you a validation, doesn't it? Knowing that you can do it. Nobody can take that away from you once you've achieved it.
And how I can describe cycling for me is, I'm quite a shy person, you know, even coming on here just thinking, oh, I'm going to forget my words. But cycling makes me feel like, you know, it boosts your confidence and makes you feel better. And for me personally, it makes me feel like some kind of superhero on two wheels.
That's what we are at the end of the day. We're all superheroes just for riding our bikes.
Yeah, and it just makes you, you know, you're doing it for yourself, nobody else. You're doing it for yourself. It's a personal thing. Oh,
that's lovely. That's really lovely. Thank you, Maryam. That's a lovely account. Well, I'm sure people will have lots of questions. If you've got any questions, you can think of that, and we'll pick them up at the end. So we're going to move on now to hear from Yasmin, who's also from Leicester. And Yasmin was actually taught to cycle in adulthood, I believe, by Maryam as her teacher. Are you there, Yasmin? I can't see you.
Yes.
There
Yeah,
she is.
I'm here.
So it was really lovely to hear
Hi.
that account of some of the adventures that that you and Maryam have had together. So can you tell us, Yasmin, when you learnt to cycle, how old you were, and how you learned?
Yeah, so basically, I kind of learnt a little bit with my husband. When the kids were little, we'd go Rutland Waters once a year, maybe once or twice over the summer period, but I was all wobbly, and so he was showing me about how to balance, and I would be very, very nervous because I was scared of hitting the children or the dogs, you know. so I was like that, really wobbly. So I didn't have any confidence, but he forced me to go, and I don't want to go. And then he would put my little one in the pulley thing, and then on the bike. And then I would just try to look after myself, really.
So was he really pushing you to do it, or did you want to do it?
No, I didn't want to do it. So he was pushing me to it, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't have that passion to do it and stuff. When I was little, my dad always used to say, girls don't ride bikes. So he would never let me ride a bike. A very old-fashioned from that generation. So, and being Asian as well, you know, it's like it's a boy thing. Riding a bike is just for boys, not girls. So that was the kind of upbringing, thought process they had. And then I wasn't really confident enough and wobbly when I was going with my husband. And it was just purely because it was a family day out sort of thing that I'd go. But when you're only going once a year, obviously you're not going to be too good at it. And then later on in life, I'd just seen, 2010, I think it was, I'd just seen some advert on learning to ride a bike with the Leicester City Council. So I thought, oh yeah, and I was kind of like having some kind of crisis in my own life, because where I thought I'm useless, I can't do anything right. So I had all these confidence problems in myself. So I thought
your self-esteem was quite low by the sounds of it.
At that time, yeah. So and that's what made me, you know, get into cycling. So I thought, I'm going to learn how to ride a bike. Come on, let's go for it. So I went to the cycling lessons, and Maryam taught me along with her colleagues. And then I carried on staying on for longer because I wanted to learn how to confidently signal on the road. So I did the advanced cycling lessons as well. And I just wanted to stay on, really. So I did about 3 months worth. So I got more than the average person.
So
I never
got a lot of hours in
lesson.
by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and also what I did is, because you're only going for the lessons once a week, I went and bought a bike in between and started cycling in between the lessons just to practice what I was taught in each lesson. So that just helped me learn faster. Plus I was interested and I was really keen because I thought I am going to do it, because the hardest part is just getting that balance first of all. And then the rest is, you know, is confidence. And, you know, you keep looking down all the time instead of looking forward. Just like when you're driving, you would look forward. You wouldn't look at your gears, would you? So that sort of thing, you know. So, and then slowly just started getting confidence.
Sounds like you were very determined.
I was.
Maryam said you were a very determined student.
In my 40s, starting something new completely. So I was quite like, wasn't young, but it was just one of those times where, you know, things were going wrong in my life. So I thought, let's do something, you know, to make myself feel good.
And did it work?
just-
I mean, what did it
it
give
did.
you learning to cycle in your 40s when your self-esteem was low?
It's brilliant. It just made me feel better, and it helped in all sorts of aspects in life. At work as well, I was more confident. I started doing presentations at work in the office, and went for promotion, job application, you know. So the cycling, the confidence while I was riding my bike, it came out through in other aspects in my life. Even just talking to people, with my family, friends, things like that, all sorts of things. And
why do you think that is? Because we've noticed that a lot as well. I mean, I've noticed it in myself and in the women that I train and in our ride leaders. Why do you think it is that becoming more confident as a cyclist comes out in other areas of life?
I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it? You're just more confident on the road, and maybe it's the confidence of knowing where you're going. So that helps. Learning routes. You know, learning routes and doing things yourself on your own, and not relying on other people. That if you're in a group ride, you're not relying on them, and you're just taking that initiative yourself to learn and motivate yourself where you're going, and find out the routes, and right, I've got to go here, I've got to go there and stuff. So all of that helps you in your life, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a sense of independence, isn't it?
Yeah, independence, correct, yeah.
So how did you progress from those early sort of days, you know, wobbling around and then building up your confidence a bit on the roads? How did you progress from there to, you know, cycling all the way to Paris and going on, you know, camping holidays in France and all of that?
I think it's just something I always wanted to do. When I started having lessons and I learned how to ride a bike, my team leader at work, he was a keen cyclist, and he used to go Skegness, all the way to Skegness and all the way back, all in one day.
And how many miles is that?
So it's about 84 miles to Skeggy from Leicester, another 84 for back. So he was going more direct route as well. If you wanted to go to the more scenic route, that's more safer and more country roads through the villages, that's about, it come up to about 100 miles. So we did that route.
More miles but less hills.
Yeah. It took all day.
So was that the first long ride that you did, Leicester to Skegness?
No, the first long ride I would say was doing the France trip, camping holidays with Indy. So a friend of ours in our club, in our cycling club, she organises women's only French adventures, and basically just ladies just sign up to it, and it's camping. So, and you've got your tent, you've got all your luggage, you've got your mattress, thin mattress, and everything.
And that's called Women's French Adventures.
Yes, and I loved it so much that I did it again the second year.
It sounds
but
great.
Actually, the first time I did it, I didn't love it so much because I found it really, really hard. I felt like I'm out of my depth here. I can't do this. I even had a meltdown and started crying because I thought, I can't do this. I just can't do it. Right.
And was that because you were running out of steam, or you couldn't keep up with the others, or just too many miles?
I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with the others, and I got left behind. So, you know, and then I had to figure it out myself, how to get there. So that was like hard, but it also taught me how to be a bit more independent. So, and then I thought, right, I'm going to go the following year because I wanted to challenge myself. And the second time I went, I was more confident. I was speaking a little bit in French to the waitress and staff. So like picking up things and just learning routes and not relying on people and just doing things for myself. And I thought, if they end up going and I'm left behind, for example, you know, because I had that bad experience the first time, I thought, at least I know the route, I've got the map and I can figure it out. If I get stuck, I can ask someone, you know.
So at times you were riding all on your own?
There was a time when I was just left behind because I was slow, because people can't just keep watching to see if I'm behind all the time because you're concentrating yourself, because it was by the Canal de Midi. it's all like gravel. So when it's gravel, you've got to make sure you look where you're going. You can't really turn around by the water when there's water right next to you. So,
so what would you say has been the most challenging
I just wasn't
thing?
fast enough.
Sorry, Yasmin. Sorry, I'd cut you off. What did you say?
That's it. I didn't say anything. That's all right.
That's the thing about
you were
Zoom.
saying.
I was just wondering, before we move on, I'm just mindful of time to make sure we have time to hear from everybody and have the Q&A.
Yeah.
What's the most challenging thing that you've done in cycling? The thing that you found the most difficult?
That first one, the first time I went to France, that was the most difficult for me, but that was purely because I wasn't fit enough. I wasn't ready for that challenge. So what I would say, if you're going to do any challenges, make sure you are fit enough, got the stamina, and you can do the challenge, because it just makes it more fun. If you're not up to that challenge, you're just going to be miserable, to be honest. So that first time I went, I was miserable, and I did have a little tantrum moment, started crying, but it taught me that this is your own fault for not being fit enough.
And what about when you did the London to Paris? Were you fitter for that one? Because you look pretty happy in that picture in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, no, that was hard in a different aspect, because the weather was so hot. It got to 43 to 45 degrees on that first day, and we did like 59 miles or something like that. The ride got cut short because the heat was so intolerable that they ended up shortening the ride, because they had to keep picking up people, rescue. It was called the love bus. They call it the love bus. So people just kept getting picked up because the bus would go around, a little minivan would go around he would make sure that we were all en route and not getting lost, things like that, making sure we were okay. He ended up picking a lot of people because it was just too hot. So although the ride itself was all right, there was hills and there was some flats, but I found that bit okay. What was difficult was just the heat. On the last day, the temperature went down to like 25, 26 degrees, and it felt like a piece of cake that day. Wow. It was lovely. Yeah.
45 degrees to be cycling, and that's really hot.
Yeah, it was really hot.
Well, that was really lovely. It's been really nice hearing your story, and I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for you at the end as well. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you for sharing that with us.
That's all right.
We're going to move on to Lindsay, and Lindsay is formerly was living in Walthamstow, is now living in Chelmsford, and is originally from Leeds. And Lindsay hadn't been on a bike since she was a kid, and then decided she wanted to do something to mark her 40th birthday. So she thought she'd do a 100-kilometre bike ride, but I'll let her tell us all about it. Whereabouts are you, Lindsay? I can't see you. There she is. So tell us about that, Lindsay, and what made you decide to get on a bike after all those years?
I have to confess, I thought I was marking my 40th. I wasn't. I have shaved a couple of years off my age, but I just felt I needed to do something. I was getting older, like physical shape and fitness was going. I couldn't get on with running, and I just knew I needed something to aim for, something that I would have to actually train for.
So you thought by having a goal there, it would push you to do the training and stick with it?
Yeah, and I'd got a bike through like the Cycle to Work scheme to cycle to work, basically. But I hadn't really done it. I'd been out and about, but not really done anything. But I just remembered from when I was a kid, I loved it. And I used to be out all day on my bike. So I thought... So
why did you stop if you loved cycling as a child? Why did that not carry on into adulthood? Is it for the same sort of reasons that that Maryam was describing?
Yeah, I think so. Other things take precedence. Life takes over. Yeah, going out, getting a job.
And you started commuting to work, didn't you, once you'd bought a bike?
Yeah. Although I wasn't very consistent, but yeah, I did.
Did it build your confidence cycling to work?
Yeah, once I knew the route, that was the only thing, is just knowing the route, and I can get lost quite easily. But I've done a couple of dry runs with Dawn, who's on the call, and got a good route in my head. So yeah, I was fine from there running. But and I rode a Vespa, so I was okay on two wheels.
Okay.
And I was quite road confident. I knew where to position myself. But yeah, I just needed that physical challenge.
So once you'd signed up for the women's, you did the women's Ride the Night, which is a fundraising sponsored ride.
So
right?
it's from Windsor into Buckingham Palace and then back again.
And that's 100k as well, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not on closed roads or anything. Very busy through town.
And it's through the night, literally, no sleep.
Yeah.
And how long did you have to prepare for that then? Once you'd actually you went out and bought a road bike in February, and then was the ride in May? Was that just a couple of months?
Yeah, I decided that to up my chances of completing it, I might stand a better chance if I got a road bike. So yeah,
if I remember rightly, you built that bike yourself out of a box after doing the maintenance.
Yeah, I sent you a picture. Yeah.
Very impressive.
Valentine's Day.
So that's just February, March, April, May. So that's just 3 months.
Yeah, I mean,
not cycling much at all to actually doing the 100-kilometre ride.
Yeah, I'd been out on rides before, but I just didn't think that I would be able to. I think I'd done up to like 25k or something, and I just knew how I felt, and I just felt I needed something else and to help, really. So
how did you do in terms of training? Dawn was telling me the other day that you did a ride from Fairlock Waters, quite a long ride where you both pitched up without any food or having had much sleep or not much preparation. What was that like?
Yeah, we'd had quite a big night, I think, the night before, and I'd like a slice of toast and just thought, it's just
that doesn't sound very sensible.
It's just 30 miles, it'll be fine. It's all signposted, no need to like work out navigation or anything, it'll be fine.
And what happened?
About 10 minutes in, I knew it wasn't going to be fine.
Did you manage to complete it?
Eventually. Yeah, it was awful.
And what did you learn from that one?
I learned to fuel and rest, and yeah, it was awful. I was crying at one point. My legs wouldn't work, seriously, nothing worked.
And how did that compare with doing the women's Ride the Night, the 100-kilometre ride?
I was so nervous about it. I really was. So obviously it was in night time, and my start wave was like 10 o'clock. So I was trying to eat around 6 and trying to have pasta and something, and I just couldn't eat. I was too nervous. And then
did you know anyone else who was doing the ride?
No, well, Dawn was doing it, but Dawn unfortunately had to back out. So I was going to be on my own, and then on the start line for my wave, I got talking to this other girl who'd was also going to be doing it with a friend, and they'd had to back out. So we just decided we would ride it together.
Did that make a difference, having someone to ride with?
Yeah, it was just the best experience ever. As soon as we set off, we always stayed with each other, and like, are you okay? Do you want to go a little bit faster? Yes, okay, let's go. And we just talked the entire time. So there's a woman out there that knows my entire life story, and I know hers.
Do you remember her name? Say hi. You never know, she might see the recording.
And then like we got back, and it was just so emotional. And then Dawn, because Dawn had come with me, Dawn was there waiting at the end with her husband.
And you did it all the
Yeah,
way
we'd done it. There was like a point when we got to Buckingham Palace, and I was like, because my hope was like riding back out in the country lanes as the sun was coming up. That was my goal. And then we got to Buckingham Palace, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to be too quick.
So where were you when the sun rose?
Yeah, on the country lanes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, just a valley. The birds had started tweeting, and then the sun started coming up, and we just got to like this top of this valley, so we could freewheel down and see it all, and like the mist rising, and it was just lovely.
Wonderful. It sounds amazing. And it was all worth it. Worth it for when you were crying on the 30-mile one.
Yeah, definitely.
What was the sense of achievement like then at the end?
I've never experienced anything like it, and I'd made it quite public as well, because I had to get sponsorship, so it wasn't a case that like I could back out or anything. I'd like kind of set that there, so I had to do it. But I was on a high for a week, 2 weeks, a month later.
Oh, it's such a lovely story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Lindsay. I'm sure there's going to be questions for you at the end as well. Yeah, it's a really lovely story. It's made me want to go and do it, actually. Thank you for that. Let's move on now to hear from Rianne, last but not least. So Rianne Martin, are you there, Rianne? She's a PA to the founder and CEO of RAFA, and she also runs cycle skills, beginner sort of cycle skills courses for the employees that join RAFA who are not experienced in cycling, to build their confidence. And she used to be a cycling instructor, and she's done loads of long distance rides, including cycling around the length of the Outer Hebrides with a tent on her back, which I think is the one that she said made her cry. So we've heard about a few
Sorry, glitchy.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so tell us a bit about how you got into riding and how you progressed and the sort of challenge that you.
So I think I've always ridden a bike, even as a kid. I grew up just outside Cambridge, and in Cambridge, cycling is just how everybody gets around. And so that I did a paper round on my bike. I went to see friends on my bike. It was just my mode of transport when I was a kid. And then I went to uni in Sheffield, and I stopped riding my bike. Like I would get the bus everywhere and things, and walk to campus. I moved to London in 2007 and could walk to work, which was amazing. And then in 2008, I got a job where I couldn't walk to work anymore. And I thought, I'm going to try cycling around London. And as Maryam said, at that point, I didn't see many other women cycling at all on the roads. It just felt like quite a maverick move. And I initially borrowed my sister's little bike, which she used for her year 6 cycling proficiency. So it was the size of, it was a bike for a 12-year-old, 11-year-old. And I was
You were commuting to work on it.
So I was commuting to work for 2 weeks because I didn't want to commit to buying a bike without knowing that actually I could do it, and it was easy and it was safe. After 2 weeks of pedaling around on that bike, I thought, yeah, okay, this is for me. So I managed to, fortunately, I worked in a small office, didn't have a cycle to work scheme, so I set one up myself so that I could buy a bike because I couldn't afford one. So I got myself a bike that was light enough. I could carry up 4 flights of stairs in my flat in Hackney, and I would cycle to work every day, and it just became the way I got around again, like when I was a kid. And then
how did it feel? I mean, you were saying not many women were cycling at that time. We know even now the numbers of women cycling are still very low in proportion to men. Did you get any negative reactions? Or did you get any harassment or anything?
I don't really recall any. I think in fact, I think nowadays I probably get more, in the sense that I'm so much more aware of my positioning. I put myself in a safer position. I think before I was probably cycling in the gutter and doing all those things that we shouldn't be doing. And I think I was kind of going on the pavement a bit and things like that. So I don't really remember it ever being that bad, but I also don't think at that time that traffic was as bad as it is now. We didn't have as many private hire vehicles, as many black cabs. Like, there just wasn't as much private transport in London. So I don't think the roads were as busy. So I think, and I was only going from Hackney to Covent Garden. So I didn't feel like it was a big thing. The biggest thing I was worried about was my bike getting stolen. So I would carry these massive locks around with me and things because I was locking up in Covent Garden. So yeah, I don't really recall it being. I just remember it was a bit like if you drive a Mini or something and you flash another Mini driver. When I see another woman on a bike, I'd be like, hi!
Hey, let's go for a ride together. Give me your number.
Yeah, exactly. It was just more like that.
And when did you start doing some of the more challenging things, like the you mentioned about doing the Dunwich Dynamo and some other 100k rides? Why did you decide to give that a go?
I suppose my riding story changed when I met my now husband in 2013, and he was a cyclist. He lived in Bristol, and Bristol's quite a big cycling community. He's cycled Land's End to John O'Groats, he's done coast to coast, all these big rides, and I didn't even ever think that cycling could be a challenge, I suppose. I never thought of it. It was just my mode of transport. And then when I met Dave, we started riding more. He was on his super light, nice, fast bike, and I was on my hybrid, kind of catching up behind him. And we were just riding around Epping, and we started doing more rides out to Essex. I would highly recommend this book, by the way. When we were talking about routes and things, it's a book called Lost Lanes. It's a bit of I have no affiliation to Jack Thurston, but for me, when I started riding, that was really helpful because it just has some really lovely routes and things. And that's what riding is to me, is just finding nice routes, finding nice cafes, and just enjoying being outside. So I did, the Dunwich Dynamo.
Sounds good. Sounds like my kind of cycling.
Yeah, exactly. Cake. It's all about the cake. Dunwich Dynamo was my first ride, and actually to this day is still my longest ride, and I don't think I'll ever ride anywhere near as far as that again.
So were there any tears on that one?
No, I think I was just in so much awe on that ride. It starts at 9 o'clock in London Fields and you cycle to the Suffolk coast. So it's at night time. So it was just this really surreal moment of just red flashing lights all the way in the distance because everyone was in front of me. I was right at the back. There was a guy on a postie bike with his border collie in the front. There was people doing on Santander bikes. It's like this, it's kind of it's like a big organized event, I suppose. And I think there was so much happening in that time that I was taking everything. It was just a surreal moment, and I think I was probably hallucinating a bit because it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, that was me. That was a message.
Time's up.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And
hallucinating from the lack of sleep.
It was just a really weird moment. And then after that, I did the Ride London, which was the first Ride London, which is the 100 miles, which I'm sure some of you may have done. And those are my longest rides, and I in fact probably those will stay my long rides.
That's far enough. So you were saying, for you, cycling, it's not about torturing yourself. You just want to enjoy yourself and go at your own pace. And I think it's not about being in a race. One of the Rafa values that we have these 4 Rafa values. One of them is to suffer. And I said to Carolyn, well, actually, cycling for me isn't about suffering, but don't tell my boss. Sorry, he'll see you afterwards. It's more for me, and I do think like challenging yourself is a great thing, and there are some amazing rides that you can do, and everyone's capable of doing them with a bit of training and the right fuel and the right knowledge and the right saddle. You can definitely ride a long way, and it doesn't need to be hard, and you don't need to be fast. Let's just have a little look. So the Rafa Women's 100 is coming up in September. Let's just have a little show of hands. How many people might be interested in doing a ride like that? 100 kilometres, not 100 miles. Yeah, 100 kilometres, which is about 60 miles, right? Let's see. Oh, there's only one. There's just Yasmin so far. Any more hands?
You don't need to wear lycra. You don't need to be on a road bike.
There's a few more. There's a few more hands coming up. If you can't find your hand, you can always click reactions for some. Oh no, that's an applause. Anyway,
I'll take it.
Oh, we've got a few more. Yeah, it's building up. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the RAFA Women's 100.
So this year will be the 8th year of the Women's 100. It was actually devised by a lady who used to work in our PR department as a challenge that everyone can get involved in, no matter what your bike, no matter what your experience, it's something to work towards. And it was just about getting more women on bikes, because you see all these white, thin, tall men on in their lycra on their bikes darting around. But it's not about that. It's about just more women and the family and the friendship and just the joy of being on a bike. So this year is on the 6th of September. We're actually working, it's launching properly on the 14th of July when we'll launch the kit. And there'll be, because obviously with the situation at the moment with COVID-19, we've had to rethink how the event will work. Last year, there were big events in Manchester, in London, in Leeds, in the UK, and obviously we can't do that. So this year, a lot of it will be online. So there'll be lots of online webinars and tutorials about how to change your inner tube. I noticed somebody had mentioned that in the chat. So there'll be some videos about that too, and all delivered by women, knowledgeable women who in the cycling industry. And there'll be training plans, coaching advice, advice on how to fuel, and we're linking it with Cycling UK's Women's Festival, which launches in July as well. I think that's coming up soon. I don't think they've announced the final details yet, but it's just something that you can sign up. What the other thing that we'll be doing that will be interesting is I know there's some of you in Leicester and some have joined from Peterborough. We're asking ambassadors of the brand to suggest a nice 100k loops all around the UK, in fact all around the world. So if there's a particular route that you're interested in, you can let me know. I'll give Carolyn my contact details and you can ask, and I'm sure we can find a 100-kilometre route. Last year I led the ride for the beginners group, and we had people on hybrid bikes. Everyone was in trainers, and we just took our time and we had a nice day. And it was
riding in RAFA top end lycra is not compulsory then?
No, not at all, not at all. But I would say for a long ride like 100k, getting yourself a nice pair of padded shorts it will make a difference. You can wear them underneath your leggings, you can wear them underneath the tunic. Like, you don't have to be in full lycra, but they will make your ride a bit more comfortable. And you obviously don't need to buy RAFA. Like, there's a really good pair of Altura gel ones that you can buy from Wiggle for £25, and they do the job. And yeah, that will make a difference. But the main thing to know about bib shorts that some people you won't know unless someone tells you is don't wear your underwear. Don't wear your underwear
underneath. I would highly recommend for the ride I did to Cambridge last year, which is my longest ride, I bought some bib shorts that have like a zip in them, so it's much easier to go to the toilet much quicker rather than having to take off one layer and take off the straps.
You just wear shorts. Like, you don't have to wear bibs if you're not comfortable about having all of this business going on.
Avoid the digging in at the waist.
Yeah, and the Women's 100 ride isn't about people wearing RAFA and people cycling on fast bikes. It's about women riding together and having a nice time on a bike.
Wonderful. Well, that's great, because that's what we're all about. That's really lovely. Thank you, Rian. I'm just aware of the time. And I hadn't realised, but it looks like we've got 85 questions in the chat.
Oh,
so,
wow.
And I know that Maryam has been keeping an eye on the chat. So, do you want to?
It's not all
questions. Question, Maryam.
We actually had a really nice chat while you guys were talking. We had a chat in the chat.
Good, lovely. Well, let us know what I haven't looked at the chat yet. So do you want to go ahead? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the first thing which came up was from Dawn, really, just that she mentioned she would love to do the coast to coast. And we thought it's not for normal people. which I think, yeah, we might show you that you could do it. Anyways, and that is actually for normal people.
I hope all these rides are for normal people.
Yeah, I think
But-
so.
Would you want to expand on what you meant by that, Dawn? Do you mean about thinking that you need to have a road bike and have lycra and all of that?
No, because no. Oh, gosh, I'm doing the now, Lindsay. No, it's not so much that I need to have a road bike or the right equipment. It never crossed my mind until Maryam said it, that she'd done it, but she just took her time over it. And it's like, oh, right, okay, that is something that is achievable then. I can just do it in a different way. I don't have to do it in 3 days like all my mates have done it.
You can take it a bit longer over it.
Yeah.
Great. I'll be up for that. It sounds brilliant.
Aviv did say, oh, maybe we could organise when things get back to normal, JoyRiders coast to coast.
That sounds great. I'd definitely be up for that. I mean, one of the questions I suppose I have, I don't know if anyone else has asked this, is it always necessary to do like a sponsored ride and have to rate? Because I know that can be an issue, especially if you've done one sponsored ride. You don't want to have to keep raising sponsorship, although it's great, lots of worthy causes. You don't necessarily have to raise money every time. Are there organised rides that you can do? Maybe this is a good one for Rianne to answer. What are your, you know, for example, perhaps joining local clubs, and by clubs I mean, you know, clubs where they're doing those kind of longer rides. What do you think, Ria?
I definitely think you don't need to do a sponsored ride. I would say that doing one once is quite an interesting experience, and you get a medal at the end of it, and it is a sense of achievement in that way. But I don't think it's necessary. Some sportives can be really, I think personally, a bit oversubscribed, so they can be quite busy with people. So if you're not used to riding, if you are going to ride for a sport with us in a sportif, I would say practice riding in a group, because if you're just training for a sportif and you're training on your own or training with just a couple of other people, you're not going to be practicing with the hazards that you might face on a sportif, where you're climbing a hill and someone unclips or stops their bike on the hill, and you need to be able to stop in time, and just being able to weave your way through other people and things. So
they're very specific skill. Can you actually give us what the definition is? What is the definition of a sportif?
Oh, now you're testing me. I don't know the actual definition, and it's actually a word I didn't even know until I joined RAFA. So
I avoided using it for this because I thought it sounded a bit off-putting. So I thought let's just talk about challenging rides instead.
I think you're right, Carolyn. I think that is my work speak coming out. So I'd say an organised charity cycling event. But you can, sportifs, they tend to be sort of paid for events, so you have an entry fee. You don't necessarily have to ride for a charity, but you probably have to pay 50 quid to take part in it, and you might get a jersey or you might get a medal and things like that. But me personally, I'd say there are much better challenges that you can do that are fun. You can do cycle London to Brighton without being part of a big event, although the British Heart Foundation one that they do is probably one of the ones I'd say is great, because the roads get closed, so there is no traffic. And the same with Ride London.
Ride London, yeah.
And I think Velo, the one that's they did in Birmingham, they closed the road. So if you are going to do a sponsored ride, check if it's a road closed one, because that does make a big difference in terms of the experience on the day, because you don't have to deal with traffic as well. But there are so many great adventures and challenges you can go. You can even make up your own one. If your family lives in Birmingham and you live in Great Yarmouth, you can have a challenge ride where you just plan a nice route. You look at you find a nice sort of quiet country lanes, and that is your challenge. And then you've got a cooked dinner at the beginning and a cooked dinner at the end. And
if you've got family,
yeah,
that sounds great. What else have we got? Have we got any other pressing questions, Mariam,
Well,
that you wanted to
what
ask?
came up a few times was really bike maintenance. So really the worry about what's happening if something goes wrong when you're on a ride, especially if it's further away from home, you know, like a flat tire or anything else.
Yeah, and that's really, that just comes, it's just a question of building those skills, isn't it? And I think that comes with you know, doing some training and then maintenance. You can practice you know, fixing inner tubes at home, spend an evening doing that. I mean, any of the how did you cope with that on your ride, Yasmin? Did you get any punctures on some of your longer rides?
Yeah, we did when we did the coast to castles, some other trips as well, a few, because we were in groups, at least somebody would get a puncture. Maryam was really good at repairing and doing it fast, but we'd all help each other. So I can repair it, but I'm very, very slow, and I wouldn't be able to do it at the roadside like that. It just take me hours.
So making sure that you've got at least one person in the group that's constantly doing punctures.
Yeah. I mean, there was two of the bigger the group. You know, we all help each other and support each other. So.
Oh, she's frozen.
You know, but we all help each other.
Yeah. The camaraderie is a really important aspect. Actually, one thing I wanted to ask about is what all of you feel is the difference in cycling with a women only group rather than cycling in a mixed group, because it would be great if some of you got experiences of both to hear how you might compare them. Maryam, have you done rides in both mixed and women only groups?
Yes, I when I first started with the Skyride locals, they were mixed. Like I said, they were very sociable. And then obviously those were Breeze, and I was one that, you know, we set up our own women's cycling club, which is brilliant. But then I did go and ride. One of my friends kept badgering me to come and ride with one of the mixed groups, and I went, and they were really nice. They were old men, bless them. A lot of them were old. They were really nice. But I've heard I've not heard very nice things about mixed groups. And personally, this is just me as a person. I prefer female company. I just think that I don't want to be dealing with men that are just racing ahead, and, you know, you holding somebody up or somebody all the show offs, because I you know, that's not what cycling's about for me. So
actually, that'd be interesting to see what our participants feel. So how many people here, put your hand up, or press your button to put your hand up, or click on the thumbs up, whichever one you can find, if you would feel just as happy to ride in a mixed group as much as in a women only group. So far I can't see any hands. Okay, so we've got a few. I know Mars and Nisa have both done a lot of riding in mixed groups. Katie, I don't know how many that is altogether. Okay, but that looks like quite a small number. What do you think are the benefits of an all-women group, particularly for longer rides? What do you think, Lindsay? Because that ride that you did, the ride the night, was a women-only one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just thought it was really, really encouraging. Everybody. So I was with that girl the entire night, but we were helping out other women all the time, like not just with encouragement, like with issues at the side of the road and stuff. And the thing that made me know that it was completely different is that I did do Ride London a few months later, and it was a completely different experience. So
how was it different doing Ride London then? Same distance.
It was a 46 miles one
okay, yeah.
I'd done. But
was it less supportive?
Yeah, I thought it would be easier because it was closed roads, but I think closed roads just made it faster. I mean, it was brilliant because you could like cycle down the A12 and the Hammersmith flyover and stuff like that, which you'd never ever get to do. But in terms of like riding with men as well, you'd find there were like big proper like not professional, but like group cyclists all going out and like zooming past you and being quite rude. It was just kind of more ultra competitive, and it wasn't that supportive atmosphere that I'd experienced.
That's interesting, because I wondered if that might be the case, but maybe it's not the same for other rides. Has anybody had experiences of mixed rides where it has been nice and supportive and the men haven't been particularly competitive?
Yeah, on one of the rides that I went on, my friend badgered me to go. Like I said, there were the older men. They were very nice, very supportive. But had I gone with that was a slower group. But if I had gone with the intermediate fast group, they wouldn't have, because they were younger men and they're really competitive.
I agree. I think I went on a ride where it's mixed as well, and there was this gentleman that was older, and he was really supportive. He stayed behind because I was a bit slower, so he stayed behind. And he was supportive, but the younger men are just more competitive.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, the mixed ride, this London Cambridge ride that we did last year, was very strong. It was a group of only about 15 of us, and there was very strong camaraderie between the men and the women, and it was actually the women that were kind of really supporting some of the men who were struggling a bit and finding it hard towards the end, because again, it was very hot. It was 33 degrees. It was that hot sort of August bank holiday. I guess it depends on who you've got in your group, like anything else. Like, there are people on bikes
with women
who are nicer than others, and there are people driving cars that some are nicer than others.
I think with women it's just more of a social aspect of it, and women encourage each other and support each other more. I'm not saying men don't, but it's just more like a friendship.
I guess there may be some women's rides where the women can be quite competitive as well.
Let's
have a look. What other have we got any other questions waiting to be answered?
Katie mentioned that she kind of is a bit worried about positioning on the road and kind of feeling safe when being on the road.
Okay, so I would well, would you like to answer that yourself, Maryam, as an experienced cycling instructor?
I think, well, when you're on the road, it's really important that you are in the right position, which usually what we call primary position. It's more or less in the middle of the road or in the middle of the lane. And that keeps you in charge of the road, because no one can overtake you if it's not safe. If you ride on the side of the road, more kind of in the gutter, then you're more likely to have incidents than when you be in the middle of your lane. We're going to be doing a video, not this weekend, but next weekend, about positioning, and that might be quite interesting to watch, to get a bit of an idea. It's always a bit hard to explain. It's better to see it. But that makes such a difference, and that's every cyclist who I know who rides in primary position says that they're feeling so much more confident doing it. But the thought in the beginning to do it can be quite daunting, to suddenly ride in the middle of the road.
It's definitely a good idea to have training, but we're also producing a number of JoyRiders London videos, most of which Maryam is doing.
Great if you can get it. It's usually available and mostly free and in most councils, but at the moment there are funding issues, so it's probably hard to get any training at the moment, but I would keep an eye on it and maybe just get 1 or 2 lessons and see how you get on, and it will change a lot in your cycling life, really.
Thank you, Maryam. And I would definitely say do check out the videos that until we're able to offer work as instructors again, when the funding issues are resolved, we are producing videos which follow the bikeability curriculum which Maryam is doing, which will show you about supporting positioning on the roads.
Nisa said something really nice, not really a question, but I think it's really nice that she said that she noticed when children have cycle training and they're coming back to class that they're suddenly much more confident. So I think it really shows that, for them, being suddenly able to do something they weren't allowed before most of the time, or most cases.
It's interesting, because if they get stuck, you can always just say to them, do you remember when you were doing this and you couldn't do it and you didn't give up, did you? And they get it. I don't know why. Every year they just get it.
Right. So it gives them that sense of working hard at something and
Yeah.
achieving them, challenging themselves.
The ones that struggle the most get it the most as well.
I think it's
also the
something to do,
children who
especially for
struggle-
women, with taking up space, taking up physical space. It really in fact, I remember Dawn, who's on here, who was one of my first trainees when I became an instructor, how proud of herself she was when she did a nice right turn with a big lorry behind, and you feel, you hear the engine as they kind of like ease off, and you realize that you've made that happen by taking control of the situation. And the way that you ride really can make you a lot safer. So learning how to take up your space and not ride in the gutter like Rhiannon was talking about earlier, I think really it does pass through to other areas of your life, learning how to take up space, because as women we're a bit, I don't know, maybe not all of us, but I remember certainly being in the playground as a child, the girls were always kind of like pinned around the edge while the boys were playing football and taking up 95% of the playground. Are there any other questions that people wanted to ask? Thank you, Martha. I'm glad you like my shirt with the bikes on. Especially
right now we just had a bit of a discussion about e-bikes and how it helps when you're getting older or have health issues.
We've been talking actually about doing a session in the future on cycling with certain health issues like arthritis and the benefit of e-bikes, because that's something that Viva's got expertise in, and we've had a number of women on our online coffee mornings that we do every Tuesday at 10:30. We've had a few women there with different health issues that have been talking about how cycling has actually really helped them with those issues.
And then we noticed that we have a visitor from as far as New York today. Dee is from New York, and we have Zina from
We've got
Riyadh.
Zina, one of our riders who's now in Saudi Arabia, who I've been thinking would be a great interviewee for a future session. She's now riding with a group in Riyadh. Do you want to say hi, Zina, if you're there?
Hi, yes, hi everyone. Actually, I'm right in the shop at the moment. As you know, everything happened at night here. And
we didn't catch you on your bike. You were telling us in the session the other day that you have to go riding at 3 a.m. because by 5 o'clock it's hot.
But actually tomorrow morning, I mean, early in the morning, we're going to a canyon. So we're coming to the shop to get a few things. We're going in the desert tomorrow morning. So yeah.
On your bike?
No. For the first time, we're going to we're going in the car, and then we're going to see if we can make it on bike there the next time.
Well, that sounds like a great story. If you do, definitely get some good pictures and do share them.
Sure.
Thank you, Zina.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Okay, so is there anybody who feels nervous about tackling a longer ride? That would like to do a longer ride but feel like there are barriers stopping them, being nervous or something else? And if so, just pop a note in the box and let us know. No, so far no. Well, that's really promising. Great. Well, I'm conscious that it's 8:15, so we're going to have to start moving towards wrapping up. So how many of you feel inspired after the stories that you've heard this evening to give it a go, doing some sort of cycle challenge? Let's have a hands up again.
Yeah, we had one Katie actually said she would love to do a longer ride, but is really worried about navigation. So now I might answer this because I'm really bad at navigating.
Go for it, Maryam.
I think I'm the worst person at navigating. I really find it hard. Even in my local area, I still get lost. And I even sometimes get lost having a map with me or a app like I use Komoot usually to navigate, which is a great cycling navigation app. So it gives you better routes than Google Maps, but basically works the same. It's just made for cycling. It gives you voice commands, so it's easier. You don't need to always look at it. I still get lost from time to time, but usually with a map, and you'll find your way back. I think what is really important is to make sure you have like a charger with you, that a power bank that you can charge your phone up if your battery runs out, because those navigation apps, they take up a lot of battery, and go for it. And it's usually not as bad as you think. And if I can do it, everyone can do it. because I'm really bad at navigating.
And we've also got, oh yeah, Vive's just said that she's done a lovely video comparing, where she did a lot of research comparing different navigational apps. But Commute with the voice commands is the winner for us. I like the fact that you can choose between road cycling or cycle touring, and you can also change your settings. So I have mine set at couch potato, which means it estimates that rides will take me, you know, a bit longer, so that if I get there a bit quicker, I think I'm doing quite well. But obviously it depends at the sort of pace, you know, that you ride at.
I'd also just add, for me, locally, if I'm riding around London or Cambridge or whatever, I actually sometimes revert to, rather than getting my phone out all the time or having headphones on or something, I literally just write the instructions on a piece of paper and sellotape them to my handlebar. Like, it's the simplest way. It's literally like left turn on this road, right turn, straight over the roundabout. Yep. I do little diagrams and I just sellotape it on. Like
I've done that before as well.
It's the simplest thing
many times.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a really good tip. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, someone's asked about phone holders. Yeah, you can get phone mounts where you can mount your phone on your handlebars. And like Maryam said, if you have one of those rechargeable battery packs, it's a good idea, because otherwise you're probably going to run out of battery before you finish the ride. And that can be really reassuring. It really helps if you plan your route in advance.
I think it's good to have like if you've got a map, you know, because that's written on paper, or your notes, and technology as well. So, but the thing is, if your battery dies on technologies, it's handy to have both, something written down as well.
Yeah,
you've
absolutely.
got to just
you might lose signal.
You might lose signal, battery dying, or you dropped your phone or something, then you'll be stuck and lost. So it's always good to take both, not rely just on one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point, Maryam. Sorry, Yasmin. Right. Well, this is great. I mean, I've really enjoyed myself. I don't know about hands up everyone else who's enjoyed it. Has everyone had a good evening?
Yeah.
I can see a few physical hands up. That's great. That's good to know. And okay, and a hands up if you'd like to see more sessions like this, more evening sessions with sort of guest speakers, hearing from inspiring women in cycling. That's good. We've got quite a few there. Wonderful. And I would say have a think about what you're going to do today. If you're interested now in setting yourself a cycle challenge, have a think about what you can actually do, like this evening or tomorrow, in terms of looking into what rides there are, or maybe talking to a friend, finding someone that might be interested in doing a ride with you, researching online to see what the options are. You know, why not make a plan and take some steps now? And we'd love it if you would stay in touch with us. And if you do embark on some cycle challenges, please let us know. You know, maybe we'll get you on one of these sessions in future to tell us how it went. And if you've enjoyed the session, it would be great if you can leave a message on our Facebook page or any of our other social media channels. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. You know, you can take your pick. You can also sign up for our newsletter on our website. Everybody's very welcome to join our coffee mornings, which are every Tuesday at 10:30. They're sort of private, more intimate gathering than this, where we chat about cycling. We have different topics. We sometimes look at a route of the week, so that's more relevant if you're in Waltham Forest, but that's only the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the session. I think that's it. Is there anything that you would like to add, Vive or Maryam? Anything about JoyRiders?
No, I think it was great. Yeah, thanks for joining, everyone.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed. It would have been lovely if we could have done this in a room all together, but we wouldn't have had our guests from New York and Saudi Arabia and all of these different places joining us. And I'm so grateful to the guests that came on and gave up their time this evening to share their stories with us. I hope we all get to ride together someday. I think that's it then. If there are any more further questions that people have, or anything we haven't answered, we'll try and save the chat, and you can message us on any of the social media platforms and we'll get back to you. We'll try to help you with any of those questions.
Maryam asked someone to get in touch with her. I think it was Katie, about cycle camping. So if you want to do get in touch, just let us know and we're going to pass on details.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. If you want to get in touch with any of the speakers today, then do. You can certainly get in touch and we can pass your details on. One more thing I was going to say. Oh, it's gone. Yeah, I know. If you have any ideas for future sessions like this, these evening online events, if you have any ideas of particular topics or things that you'd like to see covered to do with women, inspiring women in cycling, then please let us know, because we'd be really happy to have your ideas. We'll be hopefully doing another one of these. Well, actually, we've got one planned for the 30th of July. So I think that's in about 3 weeks, which is going to be about cycling for families of children with special needs. Because we've got a number of people in JoyRiders. We've got Dawn and Nyla and Roz, who are all on the call this evening, who've done great things with their own families, and we try and do what we can to support women who've got children with special needs to cycle. So if that's of interest to you, do join us for that one. And thanks so much, all of you, for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thanks,
Thank you
Carolyn.
so much.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us and giving up your time, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Great.
Bye.
Take care. And let's hope things get easier in Leicester soon.
Thanks, Carolyn and everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much, Maryam. Assalamu alaikum.
Bye.
Still here.